Good evening and welcome. Jordan here with you on WBZ. It is a Sunday night, and we'll be here till midnight with some very interesting guests and great conversation and topics I think you'll key in on, and there's a little pun for you right off the bat. In the first segment of my program, I'm welcoming in studio a young lady who has been teaching kids music here in this country since she's been in this country, coming from Ukraine, and she now has quite an enterprise going for herself. It's called Keys for Kids. On the web, it's keys hyphen and then the word for, F-O-R hyphen kids.com, and she is Inga Magid, and she's here, the creator and founder of Keys for Kids. We're going to be talking about music education for the first segment. Hi, how are you, lovely Inga?
Hi, thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too. You look lovely, and look like you're ready to perform a concert for me.
Well, maybe I will.
Maybe you will. You're from where? Tell everybody where you're from.
Well, I'm from Ukraine originally, and we came to this country about 18 years ago, to St. Louis at first, when I couldn't speak any word of English, and I'm sure you still can hear my accent, not quite Boston accent here.
Just barely. Now, you obviously, though, studied music in your home country, correct?
Yes, I studied music from 4 years old, and at that time, it's a common age to start music in Ukraine and in Soviet Union in general, and I guess in most Europe. And it was very strict, very rigid, very heavy-loaded musical instruction. And in spite of that, I still continue loving music, which is surprising.
Yeah, the old ruler on the thumb, and of course, practice. And for many kids here, too, it's the same thing. But now you have Keys for Kids, and these schools are popping up everywhere. And there is a philosophy that you have that's unique, and that's why we wanted to have you on to talk a little bit about that.
Well, I hope it is unique. First of all, I was the biggest appreciation for ability of very young kids, and I mean very young, starting from age 3, which is really unthinkable for starting piano. Most kids start piano lessons at 7 years old, 7, 8, 6 maybe, and the normal structure for piano lessons is mostly private lessons when parents are waiting in a waiting room and kids are one-on-one with a teacher for half an hour, 45 minutes. We do completely opposite things. We appreciate ability of young kids to understand music, understand difficult concept of music, appreciate to know and understand music as a whole, as a unit, and to deliver note reading, playing piano, knowing theory of music at very early age. And we're doing it in a group situation as opposed to private lessons, and we don't eliminate people, we don't eliminate the parents, we don't put them in a waiting room. We keep them in a classroom along with kids. In our classroom, we have a keyboards with double chairs at each keyboard when parents sit along with their kids, and they are part of the class. I always tell them, you're really getting free lessons, and they really do.
I'm talking with Inga Magid. She's the creator of Keys for Kids. She is a music teacher, and you still work at the University of Lowell on the faculty there, is that right?
Yes, since we came to Boston,
right.
I started there, and I'm still there.
So you're working with people of all ages, but when you start with the little ones, you said 3 years old, we all know that children respond to music, they even respond to music in the womb, they say, the idea of putting a child together with their parents in a room with a keyboard and having them actually learn concept is interesting, considering that at 3, some of them don't yet read words on a page.
They don't.
So tell me a little bit about that. Is it easier in the way you do it to teach children the necessary information about notes at that point? Easier than teaching them how to read words?
Well, music is a language.
That's true.
And you know that learning language is much better when you're young than when you're old. Listen to my English, and I'm learning now.
Your English is fine.
So it's a perfect example. So obviously, the younger you start, the better you understand the language. And from my experience, I notice kids, respond amazingly naturally, and they're so open to music. So it is difficult for teacher to bring them to all this understanding, to explain material in a simple way, clear way, very maybe colorful way, so kids can get this imagine all this picture, imagine all this contents of music. So it is a difficult challenge for teacher, and that's what this methodology is about. But students get it. It's a fun class. They don't even think they learn. For them, it is fun. They come, they we play game, we do magnets on a magnet board, moving notes. We have a special music staff on the floor when they harp like a notes, when they play music. So it is not just we sitting 45 minutes at the keyboard and here you go, here's your song you play.
Right.
There are many activities, there are games, kids playing against parents. We have parents team and kids team. And usually kids are winning, well, for obvious reasons.
Well, I've often thought, and I love music, and I played, and I still don't play enough. I should play more, but I appreciate the fact that universally, at least the notes as we're familiar with them, and you were mentioning off air that there are some cultures where they don't use the standard musical notes and staffs and so. But for those of us who appreciate traditional music, it is a language. It's also mathematical and very logical. And it's a great way to teach math to little kids, right?
Well, kids benefit from learning music, not just in musical way, what you can think about, but really counting is a math. Being in a group, it's your social skills, how to cooperate together, how to work as a team, not against each other, but together with each other, how to listen to each other, how to play in ensemble. We do a lot of ensembles, and really how to read. Reading, it's not, when you read English or any language in this matter, you know letters, but when you come over kindergarten level, you don't read one letter at a time. You read syllabus, you read words, you read sentences as a whole. And in music, many beginners, what problem is, many beginners read every note separate. And that becomes pretty much like spelling words. Until you finish the word, you already forgot when you started.
Well, I would imagine, too, that as you've charted the course of your students, you've been doing this for about 18 years, you told me.
Oh, yes.
As you chart the course, and maybe you can tell us and give us a few examples, maybe first names of some kids who've gone on, they go from 3 or 4 years old to, say, 7 or 8. By that point in time, they must be so far advanced musically, I would think, right?
They really are. We start them at 3. We can start from 10 years old. We have beginners. We have adult beginners. So we don't start all just young kids, but our specialty is really to starting with the young kids because it's so rare and so unusual. And when we start with them in a term of 2 years, 3 years maximum, as they finish group classes and go to private lessons, after that, they play piano on intermediate level, all early advanced level, which is hard to imagine. They're 6-7-year-old by this time only. They're not old enough even to start private piano lesson in a traditional style, and they already dream of any piano teacher to get, because they can read music in any key. They transpose to any key. They can harmonize. They can improvise. They compose. In our books, we have students' compositions, which are amazing compositions, which now new students are learning as a piece.
We're talking here, opening segment. We have lots to do tonight with Inga Magid. She's the founder and creator of Keys for Kids. On the web, it's www.keys, the word keys, then a hyphen, and then the word for, F-O-R, then another hyphen, kids.com. And we're talking about the importance and essence of music in our lives and starting children off at a very young age, 3 years old. And you've had great success with that. Now, you mentioned piano, of course. That's usually the best place to start because you've got the notes, the scale, everything's laid out beautifully. But do some of the children gravitate to other instruments early on, or do you start them all with, say, piano? Is that the baseline?
Well, we have violin classes start from younger kids, definitely. We have different instruments, but piano, I think, is the best to start, especially at this age. You cannot play a wrong note on the piano. You play C, it's going to sound as a C. On a violin, you have to find it. So piano also can provide opportunity for harmony, melody, and rhythm together. You cannot achieve it on too many instruments. Plus, it's so clearly laying out in front of the students. It's white keys, black keys, second, third interval. Everything is so clear. Theory concept is a breeze to teach on the piano. It's right there.
And the fact now that so many kids even have these keyboards at home, the portable keyboard.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember the old days when, well, I don't know if you remember these days, but when
I do.
in order to have a piano, you had to have a little money in the house, or it was handed down from family to family, and it took a while to get the piano and to find one. And then when you found one, you would do everything you can to hog it if you know
treasure
what that means.
it.
Treasure it. But now you can go to any Best Buy and get yourself a keyboard for under $100, and
It's true. I only ask my students buy touch-sensitive piano, so it
yes.
will be some similarity to real piano. But really, it is very affordable. And kids do like to play different instruments as well. We have opportunity for that because when we play in an orchestra, we have a piano orchestra, and every piano can be set up as an orchestra instrument. One piano is a violin sound. One piano set up the drums. You have an orchestra going on. So even if 3-4-year-old kids who cannot play guitar yet, their hands are too small.
Right.
But they can set up guitar sound, and they can play the guitar rock song on a guitar sound. So their cravings are already satisfied.
Well, you have I can just tell you have great enthusiasm and energy and love for what you do. And here's the more philosophical question. We in America have moved away from music as something that has to be taken to more of an elective, and then even then it's stretched. It's usually one of the first things to be cut, unfortunately, when funds are low. In Europe and certainly in Russia and other countries, music is first grade on, even kindergarten on, music's part of the curriculum. What are we losing here in this culture, in this country, when we're not insisting that students have music every single grade?
I don't think I'm going to be first to say that. It's really talked a lot about it. But we are losing a lot of creative kids. We're losing a lot of personality, creativity in kids, individuality in kids. And I'm, as a parent and as a musician and as a teacher, just saddened that situation this occurs. And I do have 4 kids of my own, and I see how this cut really have an influence on them as well. But, I hope we can provide some opportunity for alternative musical education. And, again, it is a wonderful opportunity for parents and kids together. There are not so many activities when parents can join kids.
Indeed.
Okay, you can come play soccer with your child. What else can you do with your child there? Right now, not so many things available. It is such a fulfilling activity. I have kids sometimes getting sick or going to grandma or something happened. Parents are coming along for lessons. They don't miss. And it's amazing to see. And when you just look at this class full of kids and their parents, and everybody has a sparkle in their eyes, and everything what you say, they can do right away. And it's still fascinating for me after so many years. They're doing it. We started new semester now. We had sample lessons last week, and we had many new students coming to Lexington location. We expanded this location right now. So as they come for first lesson, and I tell them very basic things to start. You need to see this wonderful sparkle in the eyes. They're playing it. They want more. They're craving for more.
Let's do this. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back and do another short segment with our guest, Inga Magid. We're talking about music for children, little kids as well as big kids, and the importance of it, and perhaps the fact that we have somebody who's so vivacious and so enthusiastic. That's what you need. You need to be excited about music. Music is so important in all of our lives. We'll come back in a moment. If you'd like to say hello to Inga, 617-254-1030 is the number. Coming up in the second half of this hour, we'll be chatting with Don Bracken. He is the author of Words of War. He's a historian, does a lot of work with the Civil War, but we'll look at newspaper accounts during the Civil War from different perspectives, and you can mirror it with what's going on today with the Iraq War. And then later we'll talk about the very first African-American filmmaker. Very few people know who he is, but his name is Oscar Michaud, and a fine writer, Patrick McGilligan, will join me. And also Matt Schaefer from the Boston Herald has written a new play. Much more ahead, straight ahead on WBZ.
Talk that's positive, informative, and inspiring. It's The Jordan Rich Show on WBZ News Radio 1030.
Yes, welcome back, dear friends. And I'll tell you, I'm having a great time both on and off the air with my guest, Inga Magid. She is the creator and founder of a program called Keys for Kids. She's a music theorist, educator, lecturer, and pianist, and, of course, from the Ukraine. Your English is fine. I can understand every word. In fact, I love your accent. And we'll go to a few calls here, but Keys for Kids, there are locations all over. How far out do you extend in terms of geography? Where can people find you?
Whole New England. We have in New Jersey some locations now, and we really have a great interest in the program, and we are hoping to add a few more in a near few months.
You're based in Lexington.
Yes, our main location in Lexington. I'm teaching there myself. It's our home location.
And the web, again, is keys and then -4, kids.com. Let's go to some phone calls. For Inga, we're talking about the importance of music, even music at a very early age, teaching kids at, say, 3, which is what Inga does successfully. We go to Tom in Harvard. First up, Tom, you're on WBZ with Jordan and my friend Inga. Hi.
How are you?
Hi.
I'm so pleased that you're addressing this issue. I happen to be a music educator in the Harvard Public Schools, and I've been actually a music educator for 30 years. And I just cannot stress enough how grateful we are in the Mass Music Educators Association that you're addressing this tonight. I know that there was a gentleman, a PhD individual, Frank Wilson, who had received the Nobel Peace Prize, who had studied the impact of music education on the brain in 1993. That determined it was the only activity of everything offered in a public school curriculum that used over 90% of the brain capacity at one time, of the entire brain. And those of us who've been in music for a number of years, I think, have always known that there's something very, very special and important about and fundamental about music. But I think that as brain research continues to expand and get better over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to discover lots more new things about the importance of it as well.
Please, Inga, say hello to Tom, who's also in the business of teaching. And thank you, Tom, for the fine work you're doing. And Inga, would you like to respond to Tom? Go ahead.
Well, hi, Tom. I can't be more agree with you. That is why music, since music is so important, that's why we try to do it. That's why we're trying to bring kids to music, because there is not enough really activities for kids' brain when they're so young. They cannot read they cannot read English, they cannot read much. They can look at pictures, they can do some simple logical tasks, but music really develops everything. So,
and Tom, you said it, and we could tell in your voice that the frustration, because it's people in your field who are often, unfortunately, cut back and not given as much attention and not much credit for what you do bring.
Absolutely. Frequently, it's just an issue of respect for. It's looked at as sometimes I think we are looked at as entertainment directors instead of actually teaching a basic subject, which I believe music is. And I think that, as I said, I think as time goes on, we will see a shift in this, and all the wonderful work that people like your guests are doing, I think will help bring the public to the realization that we are. This is a very, very important piece of children, particularly young children, the ability for them to learn music at a particularly young age when they can learn it somewhat as a language is so important.
Here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tom.
You.
Right. Bye now. Let's go next to Matt in Kingston for Inga Magid. She is the developer and the creator of Keys for Kids, talking about music education. Matt?
Yes, good evening. How are you?
Great. How are you, sir?
Great. What a great topic. I teach preschool music. I teach a program called Music Together.
oh, wonderful.
And it really is wonderful. And just a couple other facts which you guys can, research. But, only about 1 in 10,000 people is born without the ability to sing in tune and march to a beat. Most people think that music is sort of, some people are born with it and some aren't. It's very, very rare. So it's extremely important, programs like your guest program and other programs around to get kids into this at age 0 through 5, so they can become fluent in music later on in life.
Right. And let me ask you both this question, and it's really true. You don't have to grow up to be a musician, a performer. You can grow up to be an appreciator of music, right? That's the key to getting kids hooked early. I'll let you respond, Inga, then Matt, get his take on it. What do you think?
I strongly believe there are no bad students, there are bad teachers. So there is no, when people come to me and say, well, I cannot tap in rhythm, or there is no way I can sing on pitch, I don't believe it. And it's really, in a few months, they say, wow, it's a miracle happened, now I can do it. So there are ways how to get it out of every human being. We're all born with ability to hear rhythms, to hear music, and to recreate it. We just need to get right tools.
And Matt, would you concur?
Absolutely, I concur, and also that it doesn't have to be performance, that one can participate in it without performance too, which is a wonderful thing. Just around the campfire, just being able to join in, listen, and participate, and do that.
Just appreciate.
Also.
And Matt, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'll just say, by the way, I'm in Kingston now, but Lexington's my hometown. That's where I grew up. So go get them in Lexington.
Oh, good. Thank you so much for the call, Matt.
Thank you.
Be well. Thank you. Well, there's 2 educators who were listening in. I'm sure there are scores of parents listening in too who realize that this is really important in any child's life. Now, I wanted to ask you a couple of other things before we let you go. One is, kids with special needs, there are a lot of them, and I know that music therapy is a phenomenal thing. But do you deal with children, 3, 4, 5 years old, who may be even diagnosed with special needs at that level, and how does that work?
Surprisingly, I do, and the numbers are growing more and more. I guess because it's successful, parents just refer this program to one another, even for children with disability, and not only young kids but older kids. We have therapists, we have doctors who sending kids to our program. Kids who have some motor skills, fine motor skills undeveloped, to play piano, to try to develop the skills. Kids who cannot focus on one activity for a long time, who have ADD or any other similar disabilities, and they can participate in a class. They still can participate in a class because we're changing activities. We don't do in a class just playing piano for 45 minutes. Even with older kids, obviously piano going to be much more involved there. But there are so many other activities in a class that we're switching constantly from one to another. So even if kid cannot focus on one activity, switch is happening 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
So if something is triggering its mind, and it goes ahead.
Inga Magid of Keys for Kids, let me bring up the P word for a moment, practice. And how does one, and I would probably do anything you said because you're so convincing and you're so involved and articulate. You are very articulate and you're so enthusiastic. But how do you get little kids, young kids, who have a lot of distractions? They may be there because mommy and daddy brought them there and told them to go. But how do you get them to practice, and do you have any techniques maybe you can pass
You'll
along?
be surprised. You'll be surprised. Actually, it is not difficult at all. Even after summer break, we had almost 40 days of summer break in August. Kids came last week to their lessons, and I asked in a group who practiced every day over that period of time. And in every group, I had at least 2-3 kids who raised their hands. And many who said, well, we only missed when we had to go on vacation out of home, so we didn't have piano. So it's not difficult, because if kids do something what they like to do, and it's a teacher's job to make this activity for them exciting and fun and to love it, then they love practicing, they love playing piano. Plus, it's a very simple trick which I do. Don't tell it to your kids, it's my trick, but... if you're listening, if you're a parent. But really, at the end of the class, you will be surprised, even older kids fall for that. I put stamps on their books, on the back of their book. You don't practice at all, I don't put a stamp. You don't work, I don't lift my hand either. You practice, you get a stamp. You practice every day, you get 2 stamps. But if you practice every day and you do your note reading and flashcards, in addition, you get 3 stamps. Oh my God. Kids will kill for this 3 stamps.
Well, it's the reward system. Why not? People will work for and earn reward, and it's what always drives people to success. No
it's a
question
carrot,
about
not a
that.
stick.
Yeah. In these classes, how often are they held? Are they held once a week for most of these children?
They come
or?
once a week, once a week for 45 minutes. They come with parents, and they move progressively from one level to another. They start at any age. We have groups for beginners of 10 years old and beginners of 2.5, 3 years old. We have adult classes. So depending when they start, they progress through the program, they finish playing program, they theory, which is the most amazing thing, they theory on the second year of college.
I know, Inga, that you said that adults can learn but I think more frightened are the adults, because they think, oh my God, I'm 40 years old and I'll never be able to pick it up as quickly as my 5-year-old.
It's a self-image.
Is it really? Yeah.
Definitely, because, but when adults come with their kids, pressure is off. They are not learning for themselves, they're learning for their child, so they're just supporting their child. So even if they make some mistake, it doesn't really count, because they're just there to learn with their child, and they really learn. They play ensembles. All parents know flashcards and read notes, not worse than their kids. Pretty good. I'm so impressed. And they're so excited. They get, oh my God, I got it. I have professors, musical professors, my colleagues, bringing their kids to class, and they listen to the way how I explain theory, because it has to be explained completely different way.
Of course.
But still with the same terminology, still correct way. We don't relearn anything. Everything is explained properly, only very vividly, very colorful, with lots of connections with some kind of pictures, whatever.
Well, my son, who took lessons for many years, had a wonderful teacher. She's still teaching. And I think the key to any teaching, any successful teaching, and by the way, I give credit to the 2 callers, is a person who cares about what he or she's doing and loves the job and loves the kids. You have to have that, or else it's rote. It doesn't really connect. And I think especially with music, because it's so personal. Even though you have a class and a group, people are focusing on what they're doing, and you're focusing on what they're doing, and it's very personal. And
it is very personal, and it's very difficult. It's very energy consuming, because you're working with a group of kids and a group of parents along with them, and you have to watch for every child in a class and really watch for their progress and give them individual attention and see if their progress is appropriate. Maybe they need to move to faster or slower class. Maybe they need extra work to be assigned, or other way, take a little bit of work from this child for home assignments so it would not feel. So it's just so many things. Plus, we have private lessons. I have students which I'm coaching for competitions and who are winning competitions. I have my former students who are now coming to Berkeley College, which is exciting. And they still come to me and say, wow, we still practice every day.
Getting stamps.
Yeah,
listen, thank you very, very much. You're a sweetheart. And I'm so glad that we were able to bring this enthusiasm to the topic. I knew we would. And I want to remind people that Inga Magid is the founder and creator and one of the key teachers, but there are teaching facilities all over New England and the Northeast,
Amazing.
and they're growing and all the time. And again, you can find out a lot more at the website, Keys for Kids. Now, I'll spell it out for you. Keys, Keys, then hyphen, FOR, then another hyphen, KIDS. So it's Keys for Kids, keysforkids.com. And, hey, listen, best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
And I know the kids are in good hands, and we need to foster more musicians, more music lovers, because if you love music, you're going to find it hard to hate other things.
Symphony halls cannot stay empty.
That's right.
They have to be filled.
Inga, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. We'll be back, and we'll go from music to words. We'll talk with the author of a book called Words of War, and how the press in the Civil War recounted that exercise, how the press recounts war today. Much more ahead on WBZ.